Hi, my name is Robin Ha. I'm the author and the illustrator of Almost American Girl. This book follows my journey entering American middle school without speaking any English. I've been drawing comics for a very long time, and I'd like to share some tips in drawing comics with you guys. So I'm gonna pick a panel from Almost American Girl, and I'll show you how to draw it. There are 3 steps in making comics. First is layout, second is penciling, and third is inking. So I use usually just pencil. You could use any pencil you have. Like this is a writing pencil, but you could totally use this. Or I have this pencil that you don't need a sharpener, basically. So layout is basically a sketch of how you're gonna lay things out on a panel. And this is a good way you can play around with, how big you want the figures to be and how you're gonna lay out the scene. It's super rough. You could do it even with a stick figure. So I'm basically laying out a scene where I'm talking to my mother on a plane on the way to Alabama. One thing that you have to remember when you're drawing comics, especially if there's a lot of words that you want to put in a comic, you have to make a space where you're going to put the words. So you have to make sure you have enough space where you can put the word bubble and a word bubble big enough to put all the words that you want to say in the word bubble. You shouldn't feel too tied to something that you have just drawn. This is a layout stage, so you can make any changes you want, and you should feel free to make any changes you need to make before you go into the penciling stage. So I'm not drawing any faces yet. I'm just basically making space for things. So once you're done with layout and you're happy with your layout, then you can move on to penciling. And penciling is basically adding more details and finishing up the sketch that you have just made. So this is where you actually draw faces and fingers and chairs, hairs, anything that you need to really draw before you go into the final stage, which is the inking. So you notice when I'm drawing people's faces, I don't draw eyes first or nose first. I start with the outline of the face first. And when you have more than one person in a panel, you have to make sure their sizes are coherent with each other. So you can't just draw one person really big and the other person really small, unless that's how you intended it. So you have to be able to look at the entire panel as a whole and make adjustments. So some people actually pencil a lot more tighter than I do. I usually just kind of leave things very loose because, it's all personal style. So some people like to have very, very realistic drawings, and those require you to draw a lot more in penciling stage. But I actually like things a little loose and more playful. Okay, the penciling stage is done. So I'm gonna move into the inking stage. And there's many different ways to go about it. But what I do is that I actually ink the panel and the word bubble and the lettering first. So once that's done, it's much easier to just finish up the drawing. The reason is that the panel border and the lettering kind of needs to be perfect. It needs to serve a very specific function. So once that's out of the way, you could be a little more loose about the drawing part. So I'm just gonna do this by hand, but some people use a ruler. I will use this pen, which is a little bit thinner than the one that I use for the border. And I'm gonna ink the word bubble. So you can use a slightly thinner pen for the pencil than the one that you just used for the outside of the word bubble. And my handwriting is terrible, so I usually just type things on a Photoshop. But some people are really good at writing letter by hand. I really admire them. Sometimes I try to do that and it doesn't look great. So I'm not sure how well this is gonna look. And then you can move on to draw the rest of the page. You can use many different type of inking material. You could actually use actual ink with brush, or those fountain tip that looks like, the old-fashioned fountain tip that looks like this, which a lot of Japanese artists use. These are really great for brush instead of using actual brush, which can be kind of hard to control for beginners, these brush pens are actually a really, really good way to get into using brush. So I'm gonna actually use a pretty thin line to basically kind of outline all the ink, the pencil line I just made. And notice I'm not really following exactly what I did with pencil. I can do this because I've been drawing comics for a long time, so that I don't really feel the need to have everything completely laid out with pencil. But if you're a beginner, I recommend spending a lot longer time in pencil stage and make a clean pencil line, just one singular line that you can follow instead of kind of winging it like I'm doing right now. You can do what I'm doing right now, but you just have to expect to be making a lot of changes and have your whiteout handy. This is me kind of cutting corners. A lot of people would not go straight to inking like this. But it all depends on what kind of look that you're going for. I'm going for a very loose look. Some people, especially like a manga artist from Japan, they like to go for really, really slick, very controlled look. Or if you are actually not too comfortable with inking because it seems so final, then you don't even have to use ink. You know, there's many different ways you can make comics. This is just one of the ways. You could use mixed media, you could use paint, you could use pastels or color pencils. So don't be afraid to experiment. So once I'm done with the entire page with a thin pen, then I'm gonna actually, you should wait maybe a few seconds or test out with your finger, just kind of see if like they're dry, because some pens don't dry right away. So once they're all dry, then you're gonna erase the pencil line with a good eraser. So this is actually done. And you could, if you're coloring it with watercolor or color pencil, this is probably enough for you to go ahead and jump into coloring. But if you're gonna make a black and white comics, it's much better as a reader to have some more depth, more darker areas, lighter areas. Otherwise, things just kind of look really bland and it's hard to see what is actually going on. So I would like to use a brush pen to color some blacks and like the hair, or you could even draw the outline with a brush pen. But I do this because it's a lot easier to control a thinner line than starting with a thick line first. And it's okay to go over certain areas, make mistakes. I mean, nothing is final. Nothing is final until you actually print them. So you could make all kinds of mistakes and don't feel too bad about it. Okay, and then this is kind of an old-fashioned trick. You can see it a lot in like a lot of manga and manhwa, which is a Korean comic artist. They use something called cross-hatching, which is basically tiny little lines that makes up a shade. So this can make up sort of a gray area, but it's still black and white. So I'm gonna use cross-hatching to give some shade to my panel here. So when you're doing shading, what you need to really look out for is where the light is coming from. So every scene, there is a light source. You see there's windows, and this is an indoor scene. These windows right here are the light source. The shadow is always the opposite of the light source. And then you could actually learn all this by drawing a lot in real life. You could take a course, or you could just draw at home. Just pay attention to what you're looking and you'll be able to draw anything. You have to start from the real life. All right. Okay, so we're finished. So this is a finished panel. If you're going for black and white, this is done. But you could also scan this and work on further on Photoshop or other digital media. Or if you want to color them, you could color with watercolor or marker. Thanks for watching my tutorial. I hope this inspired you to go out and make more comics.